Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we're going to be comparing the Chevy Colorado with the 2.7 to the Ford Ranger with a 2.7 liter engine as well. But one of these trucks has a couple more cylinders. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Larch Miller Chevy here in Provo and the Ford here in Provo for giving me some time with both of these trucks. I'll include a link to both their websites in the description down below. I'll also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Powering the Ranger is a turbo 2.7 liter V6 that goes through a 10-speed automatic transmission. Fuel economy is 19 around town and then 23 in the highway, with power outputs being 315 horsepower and then 400 pound-feet of torque. Now the Colorado has an engine that's also 2.7 liters in displacement, but it's a 4-cylinder turbo, goes through an 8-speed. It's funny, 2 less cylinders, 2 less gears with this. Anyways, 17 around town, 20 on the highway. Power outputs are 310 horsepower and then 430 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we move forward with this comparison, I do want to mention if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So I'm going to give a quick overview on some of the differences between both of these trucks, but they're pretty comparable, especially when it comes to pricing. So the Trail Boss package is Chevy's entry-level off-road package for the Colorado, whereas the FX4 XLT is kind of Ford's entry-level off-road for the Ranger. Basically XLT's mid-trim in a way, and then FX4 is like their entry-level off-road. But they do have quite a few differences. So both of them have this kind of like bash plate set up on the front. You can see it on the Ranger and then also on the Colorado as well. This is an option, by the way, on the Colorado. But you notice the Colorado has much more aggressive tires compared to the Ranger. And again, with the Colorado, these aren't standard, that is an option. And you got these big chunky fender flares compared to the little dainty ones on the Ranger. Got a side step on the Ranger, nothing on the Colorado. But notice this is actually nice and painted, whereas this is just plasticky. But both the door handles on them are plasticky. Anyways, in the back of the Colorado, we've got leaf springs, and same thing here with the Ranger. Notice we got the step here on the Ranger, whereas on the Colorado, you've got it on the bumper. Now here's your side profile with the Ranger, and then here's the side profile with the Colorado. You can see it looks quite a bit more aggressive with the fender flares and the tires. Now something that's interesting is the Colorado actually has more equipment in the bed, so you can see we've got protection here from the factory, which is always a nice option. That is brutally slow to lower. Got that clip done before they even hit the ground. Anyways, yeah, pretty cool look. Now the Ranger also has a tailgate, but it goes a lot quicker. But yeah, we've got outlets here, but no bed liner. Ford just doesn't seem to like to put bed liner in vehicles, which is weird. There's the back end. Again, I do think the Colorado looks a bit more aggressive. And then when it comes to the cabs, the Colorado is actually going to be a little bit more basic, so kind of like a work truck interior. We do have these cloth seats here on the back. You can see the space here. It's not great, but mid-size pickup trucks, that's pretty typical. But yeah, basically like a work truck interior. Whereas if we pop over to the Ranger, it's, again, XLT, which is mid-trim. So you've got some nicer trim, but still cloth seats like the Colorado. And still kind of a more cramped interior. And now this is a great time to take a look at the front of the Colorado. So again, more basic with the trim. Payload capacity is 1430. We'll compare that to the Ranger. You can see, again, cloth here all throughout. You do get power adjustments on the seat, which is nice. Got the trailer brake controls down below. And then push button start. Nice digital gauge cluster. And something that's actually really surprising is this has a 360 camera system. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, just single zone climate. We do have an advanced four-wheel drive system as well as a 2-speed transfer case with this. And then this is gonna have the G80 rear locker, so it's just an automatic system with it. So again, despite the fact that this is kind of more basic with a lot of the trim throughout, it's got some solid features. Whereas now if we pop over to the Ranger, you can see again, a little nicer with the trim and some of the other elements. And then we also have blind spot ring with the mirrors. Payload, 1434 is pretty similar. And then these seats do look a little bit fancier, but funny enough, they're manual instead of automatic like in the Chevy, or power rather. And then popping in, look at this, we got to put a key in the ignition with the Ranger. So that is a little bit more basic compared to the Chev. Anyways, yeah, you've got mostly digital. And then this actually just has a backup camera, no 360. So that is another big difference. And then another one is the driveline. So this does not have four-wheel drive auto, just a regular full high and 2-speed transfer case. It does have a selectable rear locker. You press that and then it'll pop up on the screen. So overall, this kind of has like a nicer, more premium interior, but it actually has less features than the Colorado next door. Now when it comes to pricing, they're almost both the same MSRP. That's about $44,500 and that's about $45,000, so about a $500 difference between them. Anyways, let's take them out and see which one drives the best. Well, let us talk about visibility before we set off. Here's visibility of the hood, both mirrors, dual blind spot monitoring. There's the rear. And let us set off in the 2.7 V6 Ranger XLT. This is a cool truck. You know, mid 40s, and you get great power and just a nice, I mean, this is lacking a few things that I would personally like. Let's quickly name them. Heated seats would be nice. I'm not a person that needs cooled seats, but heated seats are always a nice thing to have. And then 360 camera system's always nice with modern cars. Again, not a necessity. The biggest thing would be the heated seats, but the cool thing about heated seats is you can easily add those after the fact to a vehicle. 360 camera system, no. Now, this engine is wonderful. Ford putting this engine in this truck is just genius, absolutely genius. The 2.3 that the Ranger comes with is great. This 2.7 though is on a whole nother level. It's just super torquey, gobs and gobs of torque, and it's smooth, and you don't really go super high up into the RPMs to get that torque. That's one thing to note. Modern mid-size pickup trucks are actually pretty darn powerful. I mean, think about this for a second. The average mid-size pickup truck now has right around 300 horsepower, and a lot of them have at least 300 pound-feet of torque, and several of them, with certain packages, have 400 plus pound-feet of torque. What you see here with the Ranger, with the V6, is that it just develops a lot of power on the low end, but then it keeps pulling even on the top end. Like, there's just always power with this powertrain. And I think a big part of that is, well, turbocharged helps out in the low end, and then the always having power part, I think, is because it's a V6. I think that having more cylinders really does benefit a vehicle when it comes to power, because I reviewed so many cars over the years, and I notice this every single time. Whenever you have two engines that have similar power figures and one of them has more cylinders, it just always performs better. And if it has more cylinders, more displacement, but produces similar power, even less power, still somehow feels better. I mean, a good example, this is a much more expensive vehicle, but it's the new Mercedes G-Wagon. A 24 G-Wagon had a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 producing 416 horsepower. The new 25s have a 3-liter inline 6 turbo producing 443 horsepower. The 4-liter V8 G-Wagons feel way quicker, way more powerful. So I've just noticed that. So when it comes to engines, there's no replacement for displacement, and there's no replacement for cylinders either. But overall, this Ranger XL2 with the V6, I think, is a great value. Mid 40s, you're getting solid power, solid towing capacity, and this is going to pull much better than the 4-cylinder too. Still has good payload, just a good truck all around. And I like the mid-size pickup truck market right now. It's as competitive as it's ever been, I think, because we've got a lot of offerings, and we've got a lot of good offerings as well. So let me know what you guys think about the Ranger with the 2.7 V6 in the XLT form, but I think this is a darn good value in the mid-size pickup truck world. Okay, Chevy Colorado. Let us see if this can still hold up to that Ranger now that the Ranger's got a V6 with gobs of power. I mean, when you look at the power figures, it's actually pretty darn close, right? You've got a little bit more horsepower with the Ranger, 315 versus 310 here, and then you've got quite a bit more torque with this, 400 versus 430. And so in theory, they should feel pretty similar. A little bit different, but pretty similar. So what you feel right off the bat is this does have really good torque, but it feels like I've got to get into it more so to get to that torque. It's got to rev up a little bit higher compared to the Ranger. Yeah. Like the Ranger, I feel like I'm getting the same kind of punch, but at like 500, maybe 1,000, not quite 1,000, maybe like 500 to 750 fewer RPMs. So there definitely is a difference. Ride quality is really good though on this new Colorado. That's one thing that's super impressive with the Colorado, is the fact that it's just so smooth. It still feels like a truck, but it's very smooth. Yeah, and it doesn't feel like it has the same top end of the Ranger. Again, the power is very similar, very, very similar. But what I've noticed with 4-cylinders is they always kind of, they've got kind of like a mid-range. They don't really have a super good low end, and they don't really have a super good top end. They're all about the mid-range, which is fine for daily driving, because in daily driving circumstances, right, most of the time you're just going to be doing this, right, partial throttle. And under partial throttle, this thing is a torque monster. It is very impressive. It feels really, really good. So no problem. But to cap things off with the comparison, I do prefer the V6. I think the transmission's a little bit sharper with the Ranger, the 10-speed versus this 8-speed. I think the low end torque's a little bit better and the top end's better, and then it gets better fuel economy. That's the big thing. Now, this does have bigger tires. That is something to note. This does have slightly bigger tires, so if you put bigger tires on the Ranger, your fuel economy is going to go down a little bit. But even so, it's probably still going to be a little bit better. And I just noticed that whenever you compare, and the same thing happens with the F-150 with the 2.7 versus the Silverado with the 2.7. Whenever you compare engines that are the same size but one has more cylinders, the engine with more cylinders always seems to just be under less stress, which, yeah, it's very interesting, but that's just how things work. And they also just always feel punchier. I think it just comes down to, there's, you know, the saying, there's no replacement for displacement, but then I think there should also be, in addition to that, is there's no replacement for displacement or cylinders, right? More cylinders always just seems to be better from a power perspective. So let me know which engine you prefer, and let me know which truck you prefer. I picked out these two trucks because of the price point that they're at. They're both at that mid $40,000 price point. Would you rather get the Trail Boss that's a little bit more aggressive to the off-road side of things and has some cooler tech features, or would you rather get the Ranger, which has I would say a slightly nicer interior, but for about the same amount of money you do have fewer features? So it's, they kind of both do, I'm always bad at parking, they kind of both do good in their own right. So let me know your thoughts.